We're back here on another WEP Alumni Spotlight. We've got two of our favorites, if we do say so. And we can't pick favorites, but Joe and Gage, you guys are on top of our list. We got Gage Fuller and Joe Petry. Thanks for joining us, guys. We've had some fun going through these and kind of hearing some of the war stories and memories of all of our times here at WEP. Gage, we'll start with you. Kind of, what's your early memories of when you started at WEP? And then Joe, once Gage is done, we'll get your thoughts on that.
All right. Yeah, I started, it was like 2014, and it was right when WEP was operating out of the Jordan Hare Stadium, out of like 14, 15. And they put me on replay assist trying to watch Blake, and I couldn't learn a dang thing because he was like moving 100 miles an hour. So then eventually we moved over into the building that WEP's at now. But my earliest memory is working out of Jordan Hare over there. It was quite a scene.
The 2013 2014 football season. So that fall, I think that might have been the first year we had the control room. I was gripping, I think it was the Arkansas game. One of the worst games I've ever worked in my life. It was so humid. It was so bad. I was gripping for John Mitchell down in the end zone. And it rained. I want to say we had a rain delay for probably 2 or 3 hours. Worst game I've ever worked, easily. But I stuck with it. I loved it.
Yeah, that's great, guys. Go ahead, Daniel.
Man, how'd y'all get started on camera? It's always fun to hear
it. Who you want going first on this one?
You can take it, Gage.
All right. So it took me like a year before they even let me touch a camera. I gripped pretty much every show nonstop for a whole year. And then it was the middle of a basketball game, like the middle of the game. And I guess the cam op I was gripping for wasn't like doing his job or something. But in the middle of the show, he turned around and looked at me and just like put me on camera. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, well, they're telling me to put you on camera. And he was like showing me on the camera. And they started yelling in his ear. And they were like, no, give him the camera. So they gave me the camera. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just holding it. And then like I was freaking out because I didn't know what was going on. Everybody was talking to me in my headset. And then even I think Andrew Watts at the time had to come down there to me. He was like, all right, so this is how you hold it. This is what you do. I'm like, oh, shoot. All right. And so from then on, they kept giving me opportunities on camera, and it got better from there. But, that was the first time I ever touched the camera.
Hasn't gotten much better.
In the middle of a basketball game.
What about you, Joe?
Well, I got two different ones, I guess. For the first time I actually touched the camera for WEP, it would have been for a video board show. I think it was the 2015 season that we first had our video board for softball. I was the video board camera. I remember Blake was working it. He was my director and for the little video board show, which we did out of the room up there in the press box. But he gave me the camera and he said, just so you know, this is the first show ever on this video board, so I hope it goes really well. So I get down there. This is my first time touching a camera, and we're shooting the national anthem. He said something over my headset. I guess he said I was hot or I was live. I didn't know what that meant. So I was like, I put the camera down to the ground. I said, what? And the first shot on the video board was the shot of the ground. The 2015 season was softball.
Oh, goodness.
Yep. And the other time I got on camera was, I want to say it was a basketball game, and Rob was on camera. Well, Rob got very upset with our director at the time, and he said, I'm done, and he handed the camera over to me. So the rest of the show, I did it. From then on, I was working camera.
So two very planned instances here, I see.
Yeah. How we roll at WEP.
You got to adapt to TV, right, guys?
That's wild.
Both of you mentioned that you gripped for a while before you got an opportunity to jump on camera. What were you able to learn from doing that position that helped you later on as a camera operator?
You can take that one, Joe.
All right. I'd say, I mean, just adapting, I guess, to the atmosphere and how exactly the camera operators move and what they do while they're working, what they're looking for, kind of a thing. But it really helps with, as a camera operator, to know what you're telling your grips. And if you've done that job, it makes it so much easier if you're able to, you know, tell them what they need to do. Because a lot of the times that we get kids coming in that they don't really know, and that might be their first shift. So you got to explain some things and make sure they're in the right place at the right time, and be able to be real vocal with them about it.
Yeah, you definitely got to be patient too, as a cam op. No, like, haven't done grip before, because man, they're running through crowds, and you can very, which I learned multiple times, it's very easy to trip while you're doing that. So yeah.
You got to watch out who you yell at too when you talk about moving cables, because you'd be yelling at the wrong person. You can get in a little trouble too. So it helps to know that and learn who people are, not to be yelling at them.
I definitely remember. I remember gripping I think it was soccer one time, and we had one handheld on the soccer field. He is sprinting up and down the field the entire time. And so he takes off running. I took off after and started dropping cable. What I didn't realize was I dropped the loop, and he's taking off running. The loop wrapped around my foot, and while he's running, it pulled tight on my foot. So now I'm hopping on one foot, cabling down the sideline. Yeah.
That's why Gage don't do handheld no more.
Well, I think, you know, at least for me, it was okay. You start on video board, then you go to digital shows, and then the goal is to work to linear, you know, here. And so, what was it like when you saw the schedule pop up, and for the first time you go, oh wow, I'm on a linear game? Kind of what was that feeling like?
Well, for me, I think it was the first time that I was put on a linear show as camera. I was actually working another job at the time because I had just graduated, and I hated that job. They had me selling weird stuff in a suit out of like Costco, and it was weird. So I had to work, but I was put on a linear show, and I went to drove up to WEP the day before. I was like, hey, I don't know if I can work the show. I'm on schedule, and he was like, well, just letting you know it is linear, and we've got you on a pretty important camera, and we've got people coming down, they're going to see you work. And I'm like, okay. So I told the other guy, I was like, hey, I got something better going on over here. But yeah, but I remember I was kind of nervous, but you're pretty prepared by that point doing the digital shows and stuff. So it really wasn't that much of a, because once the game starts, you forget you're doing TV and stuff. You're just doing your job and having, so. That's what I remember about my first linear show, though. I think it was basketball.
I'm trying to think of I want to say my first linear show might have been soccer, but I also think it might have been because there was a time that we were gripping and they would switch us out with a camera. And I think it was our camera 6 reverse cam for basketball that they would switch out some of us grips that were just trying to get on camera, and they would switch us out with that camera. I'm not sure if that was a linear game, though. I would assume if we had a reverse cam, it was linear, but that might have been my first one. And I mean, you're just trying to learn exactly what's going on. That was the first time I'd ever even touched a stick cam, the up ones. But when it came to working handheld, the soccer game, I'd been doing video board handheld stuff for the whole season. So at that point, I felt like I knew exactly what I was doing. The only thing that threw me off guard is all the running you got to do in soccer. You just up and down the field. But for the first, like Gage said, once you get in the flow of the game, you forget what's going on. You forget that it's how big it is. It's just, you're just doing your job. You got to follow your assignments. They give you assignments. As long as you keep thinking about them, it's all good from there.
That's all it is, man.
It's not until you mess up that you realize, oh man,
Everybody just saw that.
Yeah, everybody. This is linear. Oh no.
Well, what's cool about y'all, man, is y'all been on truck shows where you've had, I don't want to say the best gear, but you probably had some gear that's better than ours, and on some shows, not the best. Kind of, what's it like having toys on our shows and then going on trucks and then getting to use some gear that's maybe not as functional?
Well, I say WEP's equipment's definitely upper tier. I mean, I've definitely I've done some shows where we've had.
I assumed he was going to go the same direction I was. I mean, I've been on shows where I was working with a headset they use for Xbox or PlayStation. Like you have to plug it into a router or something that you have at your camera. It'd be a whole different experience compared to, like, I would put War Eagle Productions way up there on working with the equipment. I mean, honestly, it gets you a little, I don't know, when you go into the field working with this equipment they got going on, you look at it and you're like, I've never seen something like that before in my life. And they'll tell you, oh, it's this, or this is your headset, or this is what you got to run for HDX or something. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, honestly. But I mean, you just told me what I got to plug in. I'll figure it out. I mean, sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated than what we do for WEP. But then again, we work so much with WEP that that stuff just, we know what we're doing. You know, it's easy to work with after you've done it for so long. We've had the same equipment as long as I've been there. If anything, they've gotten some newer toys like Sony cams and stuff like that. And I'm still trying to figure out those things. There's so much involved with those cameras.
That was my next question is, when you get on them now, are you still trying to play with them? Because for me, it is almost like a video game where I'm still trying to figure out what features and games they got on it before I even run it.
Oh, yeah, I try to play with it every time I get on it, especially, I mean, because there's so many different little things that you can toy with, like the focus bars, like random, being able to put a multi-screen down the corner so I can look at what every single camera's looking at, and having the box up there the whole time. It's a lot of cool stuff, though. Stuff that you definitely don't get to see on a lot of other shows. It really amazes me when you work at WEP that you think, like, if I go to work for a truck show or something like that, they're going to have this equipment. They're going to have better equipment, maybe. No, that's not the case. Honestly, like, you're working with top tier equipment over at WEP, and when you get on these other shows, it really makes you appreciate what you got going on at WEP. I do know that.
All right, so we've talked about kind of how both of you have now gone out and worked in trucks. So, kind of how did starting at WEP kind of help benefit you once you went out and started working in trucks?
Well, it definitely got me a lot of respect from the older cam ops and stuff, because usually they're at first they're weary of working with any new people that come in, but when you show them that you can get there and you can set up the equipment and you can you can do your job well, then from then on they really start respecting you, and you can start making connections and stuff like that.
What are some of the similarities and how things are run at WEP versus what you see out in quote unquote the truck world?
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, like the equipment at WEP is pretty top tier when you compare it to a lot of shows that I've done. I mean, I don't know, the internet dropped out last time I was talking about. I've done a show before where I was literally taping my handles to the side of my camera, and in order to do the show. So yeah, but WEP definitely provides really good gear and equipment for people to learn on. And once you learn on that equipment, it's much easier to adjust to the equipment on the road, because you've worked with the best. So now you're just, you've done more than the basics. So when you are presented with stuff that's just basic level equipment, then it's much easier to work with.
Biggest similarities to me is just you learn how a show's
Froze
run.
on me again.
But as far as trucks and stuff like that, I guess they run a little bit differently, because after or before a show for a truck, you may have to come and set up, and then afterwards you got to strike everything. When it comes to our types of shows, when we strike everything, we're not going to put it in back in a truck. We're going to put it back in the arena or something like that. So one of the things that similar is you get to see how a show's run, because they're both similar on how once you get in game, it's all run pretty similar. But things that you learn outside of being in a truck show that you see is the stuff around that, the people that you work with, because sometimes there's different people on a truck show that wouldn't exactly be on a show with like WEP from a studio perspective. That's there's a lot of benefits to both. To figuring that out with War Eagle Productions, but it prepares you to go into that. But there's still more to learn. There's always more to learn with this.
For sure. A fun part of me about this too is at the end of the day, we are fans of the teams we're covering at some point, right? Like at some point, Gage, you've been an Auburn fan for almost your whole life. I want to say Joe was a Bama fan, but I think we've kind of made him adapt to the other side a little bit. Kind of, what's it like having to put that aside on most of these shows and just go out there and shoot?
Yeah, I just try not to think about that. Like after the game, if like working these Iron Bowls where Auburn wins and they storm the field and stuff, after the game, yeah, I'm sitting there taking pictures and like jumping around, but like during the game, I just try not to think of the whole fan part of it. I just try to do my assignments and the job and just put on a good show, really.
Yeah, I'd say once we get in game, it's I'm surprised at how easy it is for us to kind of zone out. I feel like for a lot of us, we'll talk about it over headset and be like, hey, we need something to happen here. But, that's just as much for us as a show than it is for the actual, like, team we're rooting for sometimes. Even though, we're definitely rooting for somebody. But it's not exactly something that we show in show. We're always, when we're running for the SEC network or something, we're definitely doing an unbiased show. Now, maybe for the video board, it's a little bit different, but that's what I think makes video board shows so much more fun, is because you really get to really be biased. It gets fun. Yeah. But sure, as far as other shows and stuff, I'm surprised at how easy it is for a lot of these guys and stuff for us to really throw that to the side and come in and do our job.
So we've talked about, having to be unbiased, but, this still is a fun thing to do. We get to cover sports on a daily basis. Not many people get to say they do that. Whether it's been at WEP or maybe some show you've done on the road, what's been one of your favorite memories of covering a sporting event?
There's so many. Honestly, there's so many with WEP. I'd say the biggest one that I can remember, because I'm a huge baseball fan, the biggest one that I can think of is Connor Davis. I believe we were playing Arkansas, bases loaded. We were losing by, I think, 3 runs, and it was the bottom of the 9th. He hit it out. It was insane.
That's nuts.
One of the craziest moments I've ever been a part of, because I remember being on headset, and I said, we need a dinger right here. Sure enough, he hit it out. It was a crazy, crazy moment. But there's so many of them. Walk-offs are the biggest ones for me. I think walk-offs are just so crazy. As far as a Florida game, we had a walk-off walk. So that was pretty wild for me. But I've also been a part of multiple Iron Bowl victories. Those are big ones, always, because most of the time we storm the field. And, especially because Alabama's always ranked so high. But, there's way too many to count. I've worked multiple basketball games. I've done buzzer beaters. One thing about Auburn, man, they give you a heart attack at the end of the game. So it just sets up. Across every sport, they set you up for something's going to happen every year, at least 4 or 5 times in a year. That's the best part about it. It's always something. But I have so many great memories, but those are just a few that I can think of off the top of my head.
So, Joe, from what I'm hearing, is much like Babe Ruth, you called the shot.
I call a lot of shots there in baseball games. I will say that, and I'm wrong almost all the time. That time I was actually right, and I made sure to let everyone know after. You let y'all know I called that. We needed a dinger, we got one.
So, Gage, we're talking, favorite memories for covering sporting events. What's been maybe 1 or 2 of your favorite ones, whether at WEP or on the road?
Well, most of my favorite ones do come from WEP. and one of them was when we got to cover the softball super regionals, I think, or regionals, where we had like 7 or 8 cameras set up. Man, that was just fun because it was, I forgot how many games we did over the course of 3 or 4 days, but it was a lot of games, but we got to swap around cameras, and all of the shows looked really good. We had like a really good team on the cams. So that was probably the more fun that I had on a show, and plus working the Iron Bowls where we've won, and everybody storms the field, and that's cool. But also like the time that Petry was running camera, and I think it was softball or baseball as well, and they were doing the race, and they ran him over, and then they put it on loop at the studio. That was a good time.
Yeah,
I got 2.
I tried to leave that part out, but yeah, appreciate that, Gage. Thank you. Needed that. They were doing the Dizzy Bat Race. And I guess I got back to studio, and Michael was like, yeah, I just told Cuzzo to shoot it, see what would happen. Sure enough, some kid runs directly into me with that camera, but you know what? I held on to the camera. That's the important thing. For anybody coming in, make sure you hold on to the camera. That's the
key.
important thing.
See, that's really one of my favorite ones too. Sorry, Jake. One of my favorite memories was this past, maybe 2 years ago. We had Super 7 football. And it was a year after we barely had either one of y'all working, it felt like. And one of the rare times we had Joe on the up camera and Gage on the handheld. And I haven't been a part of a funnier game with those two on headset, because Joe was not letting Gage breathe on camera. I think Joe might have shot Gage more than the actual game itself.
And then I had boots on that day. I didn't come prepared to run handhelds. Now I'm running around out there with boots on.
Oh my God!
He shoots with both eyes open. He can't close one eye. He shoots with both eyes open.
A handheld ain't my thing.
No, it ain't. It's funny. It's funny watching that man run it. He ain't bad though. He ain't bad.
But you talk about, that's just one funny moment, but just pregame headset, you have so many. So like,
oh yeah,
what's some that you just vividly stick out as a funny moment, or a moment maybe outside of the game that you'll always remember?
I don't know. Pretty much every show's got some funny moments over headset. There's not like one main one that kind of sticks out, because we all get along really well. So we're all just either talking crap to each other, or like making songs up, or doing crazy stuff to kind of pass the time into a game.
At one point, we were talking about having a rap album.
Yeah, we had a
for
whole
all the
album
cam
set.
guys. I mean, we got so many characters inside that group that it's something different every show. It's always something funny. They're hilarious. Everybody's so funny.
Well, you're talking about that group, and the thing that stuck out to me, and we've talked about this with some other guys, but was the competition. And every game, you didn't want to be the guy that was the weakest link of that crew. So just kind of, when you think back, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, how much did that competition drive both of you each time you were on a show?
Yeah, that was always, the competition was always there, and if you look at it now, it's kind of helped literally everybody that was on those shows at that point in time, because every single person, I think, whether it be in the control room or on camera, are off doing some pretty big things now. So yeah, it was definitely a fun competition, but we definitely did take it a little serious. But at the end, I mean, it did help us all.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. We definitely had quite a few competitions. I feel like me and Gage at this point, they don't put us in those anymore. They kind of leave us out to it. It's kind of the newer guys that keep doing their own little competitions. But every once in a while, something like that will come up. Who got the most replays and stuff like that. But I'm just like, that doesn't show who did the best. There's a lot of live shots that are important. Not everything's about a replay, but. I mean, it definitely makes you a better camera operator as far as like having a little fun and trying to make you better at your craft. That's what we try to do every day, is get better. Because,
then going
like
back
I said, it's a learning process every day.
Yeah, well, then going back to like how all the competition helped us out and stuff. There's been shows I've done where I've done a lot of shows with Petry on the road. I've done a lot of shows with Corey. Done shows with Doug, and then I've done shows where I think I'm not working with anybody that I've worked with at WEP. But then I look at the sheet before the game, and I've got Alicia or Janice or somebody running replay for me. So it's kind of cool to see because we're literally everywhere right now. So.
For sure. So what's it like when y'all come back now? Like I think I men's basketball versus Missouri did this year with E2, where I know I got so much confidence in our game and I got both y'all on low slash. Like there's never a problem of where I know y'all are gonna be at. What's it like now when y'all come back and you're doing shows together? Then you got Will on high tight, we got Corey on camera one. Like how you feel when you're doing these shows now?
Yeah, it kind of takes you back in the day when we were all on the shows together, you know. But yeah, I use the shows now at WEP, especially when I'm working with these guys, just to work on stuff that I'm not 100% confident in doing out there on the road just yet, and trying to like perfect certain shots and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot like working like we did 2 or 3 years ago when all of us were on the same show. So I always look forward to it when I see all of these guys on the show with me.
Well, not only do you know it's going to be a good show, you feel, or at least you feel like this is going to be a really good show. It's going to be a real fun show. Get to see all the guys again, all the people that we used to work with and stuff like that who've gone on and who ran it, rarely come back. I mean, once every while. But every time they come back and we all have a chance to work together, it's always a blast before, after, and during the show. Talking it up. It's always awesome to see people and work with them, again, because I don't know, you just I don't know.
Shed a single tear.
You just don't see them anymore, and it's fun.
Use some napkins, Joe. I can give you a napkin.
Yeah,
the tears coming.
I'm starting to tear up over here, man. I miss everybody.
Well, no, I mean, seriously, you become a family, doing this because you're around each other so much, and so it is cool when you've got people that have gone away and seeing them come back. It's always me, Missouri. Whenever I see a Missouri name, because I helped with that, there for a while, and for me, when I see a Missouri name, it's like, oh, sweet, awesome. Now when I'm starting to see you guys out and about, like, it's cool seeing that and just how it all intermixes and that. So you're definitely right. It's cool and it's fun catching up because you do become a family, and you got connections to connections all across the country because of.
It helps when you walk into a show for a truck show or something, and they're just talking about who you are and stuff. It's a lot of new guys, and they're like, well, I know this guy or this guy, and they're like, oh, well, we already know that you know what you're doing. If you know these people, you're qualified. You know exactly what you're doing. Like every time I go on a show, I mention Gage or Corey almost every time. And when they hear those two names, they're like, all right, we don't even have to worry about you. You just go do your thing.
Absolutely.
Dang. Oh, what a nice compliment, Joe. Thank you.
We're going to get the tissue over there for Gage now, though.
Sorry. We're part of this is to kind of give a behind the scenes for incoming freelancers or new students to kind of know what it's like when you come in here. So, if you have one piece of advice, and this will be for both of you, if someone is starting with WEP this, fall or spring, what's the one piece of advice you say, hey, if you do this, you will be successful and you will be prepared once you go anywhere with a full-time job?
I'd say ask questions because the more you work at a certain area, you might think that you've perfected it all, but there's always somebody that's got a different opinion or a way to make that shot or make that replay better. So the more questions you ask and the more brains you pick, then the better you become at whatever job you're doing, whether it be replay or directing or producing or running the camera. So I would say ask questions.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Definitely ask a lot of questions, and versatility really helps out a lot too. Because if you know how all the other positions and stuff work, or at least have an idea of how they work, it makes your job a lot easier of what you need to be looking for maybe as a camera operator, what kind of shots and stuff that they would be looking for from your position, or even if you're in the replay or you're in shading or something like that. It really helps out a lot to understand other aspects of the studio or the truck show or other positions to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because it can get really confusing sometimes if you don't understand all that. You're just out there, messing around and or don't really understand what's happening with other positions also. But there's a lot of times where you can blame a position for not doing their job right, when in all honesty, maybe you did something right, but there's certain things that you should have done better that would have helped them out a lot more. Because
for sure,
sometimes there's definitely a blame game going on. I know y'all in studio know all about that.
Hey, it's a bunch of pieces working as one to make a big broadcast at the end. So if one of them's not going, it clogs everything up.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Well, cool, guys. Appreciate you taking the time with us. It's a lot of fun catching up, and I know we all look forward to working with you guys here, not only this year, but down the road as well. So thank you, guys.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And always War Eagle.
War Eagle.
baby.